What's up, guys? This is Jay from Generation Geek, and I know it has been a minute, but we have finally returned, and we have two of some of the most powerful beings in all of comics, of course. And today we are talking about no one other than the Plutonian, and bringing his way back to the Versus Arena, we have Robert Reynolds, the Sentry. We're going to get into these guys. Of course, we know they are some of the most powerful beings, obviously being Superman archetypes, some of the most powerful beings that we've seen in the comics, with things that they can do. We are going to extrapolate and get deeper into more of what their powers are. But these guys, of course, have your classic flying break power, super strong, super fast, can fly, invincible, super hearing, all of that stuff. But they have many more abilities than you may believe. But first, if you guys are new here, please like, share, subscribe, and join the Geek fam. We would love to have you. All right, first we are going to go over the Plutonian from the Irredeemable universe. The Plutonian was a being who basically was born of basically these two celestial beings. They had like a baby and ended up being a Plutonian. So at first, we're showing the Plutonian. He has this whole arc in which he's a hero. He has this tragic event. He has like this real fragile psyche that we learn comes from, the woman that he imprinted on, because he's not actually a human baby. He's actually like the celestial being, and he imprinted on a pretty much broken woman and took on some of her psychological traits by accident. So he has all of her things, all her insecurities. But when he hears people like mocking him or saying that he's not doing a good job, he takes it all very personally, and it pretty much ends up driving him insane. He ends up like being responsible for like a whole bunch of people's deaths, for like giving this scientist this alien device that basically was like this noise virus, and basically was like ripping the flesh off of human beings, like killing children. It was like very, very dark. So he ends up going on this spree, and he does some crazy things. Obviously, he takes out so many superheroes. I mean, like millions and millions of people. Like the Plutonian is just like killing people like it's nothing. Like literally, he's destroying cities like Singapore. Like literally, he's throwing like meteors from space, destroying cities. He's using his heat vision, literally obliterating entire cities, making all these types of like horrific monuments, and just pretty much making everybody's life like a living hell. Like he really just fully goes deep into it, and everybody starts to fear him. And you really it makes you really think, like, some of these people or these YouTubers, like if they really had these powers, like what would they really do with them? Like if you can actually like fly or find the person like less than a second who is actually like harassing you online, like that's kind of what the Plutonian is. Like he completely just lets loose and he's killing people. But he has some very impressive feats. Obviously, we learn later in the comics that the Plutonian's powers aren't really like super speed, super strength, and stuff like that. His powers really come from his ability to basically shape and warp reality around him, or alter molecules and stuff like that. So instead of like punching a wall and breaking it because he's strong, what he's really doing is literally like deconstructing the structure of a wall, making it weaker so his fist can go through it very easily. Or like air, like shifting around air molecules to make himself go faster. I think they like compared to like like holding soap in your hand and squeezing it, and he's like slipping like through the air molecules and stuff like that. So they gave a real explanation of how Plutonian's powers work. We see him go into some really powerful stuff. We see him able to eventually like stop the inertia of an entire moon. Like he literally stopped the moon from spinning by taking away its inertia, its movement, which was a super crazy feat. So we do know that obviously that he is planetary in scale and power when it comes to just feats in general. Like he can destroy a planet, like that pretty much is clear. The only reason he has not destroyed Earth is pretty much because he has an attachment to it, and he really enjoys like terrorizing the people. He basically look at the people's minds and look in the past and stuff. Like he can obviously convert, manipulate energy and things like that. So the Plutonian pretty much can do all of the powers and things that you see from beings like Molecule Man or stuff like that, or to a smaller scale, Franklin Richards. Now I don't think that he is that powerful, but it is shown that possibly he is still like an infant when it comes to this race of beings. So he hasn't really fully understood these powers, but when he did meet his parents, he kind of started progressing really fast, and he was literally controlling the narrative, like the narrative of reality. So like he is a reality warper in his base power set. And then we have Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, one of my favorite superheroes of all time, like literally top three between like him, Blue Marvel, and I gotta think of another one. But definitely between those two, you guys know that I love me some Sentry. Robert Reynolds is one of the most powerful heroes in all of comics. Obviously, we will be seeing him soon in the Thunderbolts, so not too excited about that. Like I'm excited about him coming to the Marvel Universe, but obviously it's the Thunderbolts. Like I would have much rather see him like have like an Age of Ultron movie all to himself, because it's the freaking Sentry and the Void. Like it's the most powerful being in Marvel Comics. But I digress. We do know that Robert Reynolds is the most powerful hero on the planet, like not even close, more powerful than the Hulk. more powerful than Thor. Like, everyone fears this man. Like, even, statements from Iron Man when I think like Doom tried this like spirit reversal spell on him. Like, Doom was like, he is not a very well man. And Iron Man's like, he will kill you and not even know he killed you. Like, that is how powerful the Sentry is. Obviously, we've seen him go toe-to-toe, with Blue Marvel, one of the most powerful heroes on the planet. We've seen him go toe-to-toe with Thor, toe-to-toe with Hulk. Like, pretty much anyone who is a powerhouse in Marvel Comics, Sentry has gone against them all. Now, of course, with a character like that who has been shown in comics, he's going to have some, feats in which make no sense, where he gets like taken out by characters that should be nowhere near as powerful as him. That's just comics in general. So for these first battles, of course, we look at their higher end feats, and then when we use them, the weaker feats versus the other characters' weakest feats, we kind of try to melt them together and make them make logical sense for comic books, which is crazy, but that's what we try to do. So obviously we know the Sentry can generate heat and beams and stuff like that. He has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, and his powers range from super speed to intangibility to super strength to invulnerability to reflecting light to reality warping, molecular manipulation. Anything that you can think of, the Sentry has it. Telepathy, every power that you can think of, the Sentry has shown to have had at some point in comics. Even beings as powerful as like the Super Adaptoid or Absorber Man, whose powers are to take other people's powers. Sentry's powers were simply too much for them. And obviously we've seen the other side of him, the Void, which is an aspect of him. And when he comes out to play, there's almost nothing that can stop him if Sentry does not want to be stopped. We've seen Sentry at his peak when him and the Verge have merged, and they were just on another level. It was pretty much nothing that could stop the merged Sentry. Like, he really no-sealed the entirety of the Avengers, would have She-Hulk, Thor, Captain Marvel, Iron, like all the most powerful Avengers that you can have. Sentry no-sells them. We've seen him go into intergalactic wars, where he's fought against the Imperial Guard, the Fantastic Four, took control of the whole entirety of the Negative Zone, the Kanzerverse, like everything. Sentry is on a whole nother level. So when it comes to battles like this, it's not as easy to judge as say like him versus like Blue Marvel, because we do know that Blue Marvel within himself has his negative zone energy reactor powers, his antimatter powers, which basically make him the antithesis to the Sentry, in which he is able to defeat almost pretty much any being. We've seen like Blue Marvel like destroy Beyonders because of the nature of his powers. When it comes to Plutonian and when it comes to Sentry, we can only go against their in-comic feats, and we can look like the higher end stuff. So like I said, we know how the Plutonian's powers work. It's basically reality warping, molecular control. Pretty much they are the same thing. That is also the same basis of the power of the Sentry. He can pretty much do anything. So he's like, okay, so how do you have these two basically unlimited power, scaling type beings go against each other? Well, when it comes to reference within the comics, we've seen the Plutonian. Granted, it can be said this was before, he realized, the nature of his powers. We've seen him defeated by beings that basically can just, control energy, or, super high energy manipulators that were able to literally make the Plutonian run away scared and fear of his life. We've also seen the Plutonian die at the end of the comics by absorbing all of this radiation from the planet. Now, that is going to be the biggest downfall of the Plutonian, because we know he can take the hit. We've seen the guy take hits from people who can control gravity and was literally pulling the weight and killing entire solar systems in order to hit him. So when it comes to scaling up with the Sentry, he can possibly be there, because when Mobius took the body of the female who can control like gravity and stuff like that, he actually used her powers to their full extent. He was literally destroying entire civilizations in his battle of just trying to hold down a Plutonian. But on the same side, we have Sentry, who was fighting against Genis Vale, and when he was able to cut loose when they were in the microverse, they were literally destroying planets with like their blows. So Sentry has more consistent feats when it comes to that type of power. And then back to what we said about the Plutonian, when he died, his death came from when all this radiation came from the planet, when his parents were released from the earth, basically was destroying the atmosphere. So he flew around, he gathered all of this energy and this radiation and was able to like disperse it and throw into space or whatever. But when he did it, it was draining him of his life force and his power. Now, you're talking about global nuclear radiation. We have seen the Sentry take nukes and barely take bruises. This man basically died from that, split his essence up, went to all these different multiverses, and they kind of try to allude to that he was the creation of Superman. Like the Plutonian is the reason why they created Superman, which was a really cool end to the book. It was super well done. But the Sentry was able to, do that no problem. But then we look at his parents. So the Plutonian's parents are basically celestial beings. So he was nowhere near as powerful as them, but it came to a point where he was able to kind of learn the things that they were trying to teach him, and he could use some of their powers and was starting to develop those same powers. So potentially he could be as powerful as them. We have no reason not to believe that, but again, that's something we have not seen. But then you have Sentry on the other hand, who defeated the freaking Molecule Man, who obviously we saw help recreate the entirety of the multiverse with Franklin Richards and Mr. Fantastic. So that's just a feat within itself, scaling wise. But then you have scans of literally Sentry flying through the heads and killing Celestials, like when they were captured by Null in the whole King of Black event. They came down and literally Sentry is just flying through these Celestials' heads, taking them out, no problem, no effort. We've seen him carry the body of Celestials through space. So when it comes to like celestial beings, this is nothing new for Sentry. He has experience with them. He has shown that he's able to even defeat them, versus the Plutonian not really being shown able to do that. Of course, we've seen the Sentry die a number of times. Mostly it's because he allowed himself to, and then the other time in which he died to Null was because literally, you know, Null was an ancient, like elder god basically, and of course his power level was on a whole nother level because he was killing Celestials off the rip, literally cutting off his. That's how we got the Place of Nowhere. So Null is on a whole nother level, so that's not even a low showing for Sentry, as Sentry was just, you know, fighting a being that was just another higher level of power or similar to him. And also, side note, the writer, I believe it was Jason Aaron, I could be wrong about that, but whoever wrote the King in Black book didn't even know that Sentry and the Void merged at that time. So it was a whole, it's not a consistent feat because it wasn't even Sentry at full power. But Sentry at full power, again, taking out Celestials, taking out Molecule Man, taking control of the entirety, well, him and the Void mostly, taking the entirety of the Cancerverse, making an army of it, you know, fighting against all of these heroes that included, you know, Gladiator, Beta Ray Bill, The Thing, Human Torch, Nova, all the Captain Marvels. Like, of course, like, Sentry is on a whole nother level. So when it comes to this fight, I believe that it will be a good fight, a real drawn out fight. Obviously, we know that Sentry has, you know, his mental things, but of course, we always put these characters, you know, in their highest feats. And when it comes to their highest feats, I just don't believe that Plutonian just has what it takes to go against Sentry. So granted, we did see him take these hits, you know, from this woman who was, you know, controlled by Modius, and basically he was getting hit with the power of stars. But the Sentry's power is the explosion of 1,000,000 suns, 1,000,000 stars. So like, I don't think he can keep up with that at all. And obviously we've seen him die from, you know, the radiation, and Sentry being how his powers work, being able to basically control energy and do whatever he wants to do with it. I don't believe Plutonian stand much of a chance. And Plutonian's not used to getting hit by people who are strong as fast as him, and even have the same powers. So like when he fought his parents were like dog walking him to where like he had to surrender, and he wanted to learn more. So when it comes to this battle, I have to give it to my man, the Sentry. Yes, he finally gets a win in the Generation Geek versus Battle Arena. He will win a lot of fights. It just so happened that he's going against the Blue Marvel, and I don't think he's winning that fight. But yes, our winner of this battle is the Sentry, Robert Reynolds. But what do you guys think? And who would you like to see me do a versus battle on? Leave that in the comments below. And if you guys are new here, please like, share, subscribe. If you're a Geek fan, we will love to have you. As always, I have been Jay from Generation Geek. Y'all be blessed, and peace.